Sitting with your legs crossed or slouching in a chair was more than a breach of manners. In 1894, these were considered physical sins. The authors of Searchlights on Health argued that every breach of the laws of health was a moral transgression. To them, an unwashed face or a slumped back signaled a deeper decay of character, a failure of the soul read in the posture. This anxiety fueled the publication of manuals like Searchlights on Health. It promised to guide the public through these hidden dangers, selling over 500,000 copies to readers desperate for its instructions. The book operated on the maxim that knowledge is safety. Society felt vulnerable to moral pitfalls and physical ills, and the authors maintained that only constant education on the sexual science of the era could prevent total degradation. Because the stakes were so high, a minor blunder in public served as a direct gateway to ruin. A lack of self-control in a parlor suggested a mind too weak to survive the actual dangers of the world. The 1894 reader lived in fear of the dark corners. Society viewed moral decay as a literal contagion, believing that associating with mean people would cause a person's thoughts to become infected and debased. In this environment, reputation was the primary currency, the impress giving human dross value. Indulging in bad habits caused that reputation to fracture. A single false step bankrupted character instantly, leaving the wretch under an eternal quarantine, isolated from home and friends. Even beauty was viewed as a dangerous, deceptive gift. Without rigorous moral character to back it up, a beautiful face was seen as a trap, leading its possessor toward vanity, selfishness, and eventually sensual pleasure. The external world functioned as an active predator. It waited for a person to show a lapse in self-control, ready to turn a small mistake into a lifetime of infamy and shame. The late Victorian home functioned as a primary school of character. In this nursery, parents implanted the principles and habits required to govern society, forging the armor children would need to survive the public world. The mother acted as the visible providence of the family. Her specific role was to subdue the inherent ferocity of her children, using her influence to tame what the authors described as a naturally savage state. This required a system of family government. It demanded absolute obedience to parental authority and the cultivation of daily self-denial, ensuring the child's impulses were held in subjection to judgment. The authors warned that pampering a child was a grave error. For character to hold, the moral tissues had to be kept tough through discipline. Building these calluses was considered the only way to ensure childhood survival. Parents had to preemptively harden their children through this rigid discipline. Only then could they be released into the sinks of pollution found in adult society without being corrupted. In public, the internal trait of self-control was tested through a hyper-specific code of behavior. Every movement was a signal of a person's moral status. In letter writing, haste was considered a disgrace. A blotted page or a misspelled word proved an unreliable mind, signaling that the writer lacked the care needed for a respectable life. The street had its own rapid-fire protocols. A gentleman always gave a lady the inner side of the walk, never walked absent-mindedly, and avoided standing in store windows impertinently gazing at passers-by. Table manners were policed with intensity. Diners were instructed to keep their elbows pinned close to their sides. If they encountered a steel fork, they were expected to eat with their knife to avoid picking at bones with their fingers, a move considered inelegant. Courtship followed the strictest protocols. Unchaperoned interactions were forbidden, and young men were warned that unless they could look upon a girl with a pure heart, they were failing the primary test of manhood. Every correct behavior, from the way a letter was folded to how a fork was held, acted as a literal brick in a wall. These external signs were the only way to prove the internal possession of a good name. While these rules feel exhausting today, they represented a desperate attempt to establish order. In a world of dark corners and invisible vices, etiquette was the only way to measure a stranger's worth. The community used these rules to filter people. Politeness was the scale by which the pagan weighs the Christian, allowing society to separate reliable citizens from those who lacked the self-control to be trusted. Modern self-help focuses on individual happiness and self-actualization. The 1894 version of self-help focused entirely on collective survival, ensuring the individual didn't become a buoyant pestilence that would sink the community. The era's logic placed a spotless reputation above great riches. Gold had no value without character. In this economy, the most vital asset a person could invest in was a name that could survive the scrutiny of the neighbors. This hyper-specific code of behavior gave the Gilded Age reader a functional tool for security. Mastering the exact fold of a letter or the placement of a fork acted as a searchlight, holding back the dark corners of a total societal collapse.